it probably bears repeating, this is not a fly-by-night individual. Here's a guy who graduated #1 in his class at West Point and went to Harvard Law School. He knows from what is proper, and he knows better, in lack of a better phrase.
As for was I on the phone call, I was on the phone call. The phone call was in the context of, now I guess I've been the Secretary of State for coming on a year and a half. I know precisely what the American policy is with respect to Ukraine. It's been remarkably consistent, and we will...
Pretty startling admission right there, drawing some criticism from Democrats, certainly, but also some Republicans in the Senate, including Lisa Murkowski, Senator Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, who said this, quote, "You don't hold up foreign aid that we had previously appropriated for a political initiative, period." Is Senator Murkowski correct?
George, I never saw that in the decision-making process that I was a part of, the decision surrounding whether there should be Department of Defense assistance as well as some State Department assistance provided to push back against Russia. The conversation was always around what were the strategic implications. Would that money get to the right place, or would there be corruption in Ukraine and the money wouldn't flow to the mission that it was intended for? How do we protect that? Is it appropriate for us to provide defensive weapon systems? George, you'll remember, I don't know why Barack Obama held up that funding. Maybe he had a theory too. I don't know. He never provided it. This administration's done it not once, not twice, but now 3 times.
President Trump...
The people in Ukraine are safer and more secure as a result of that, and the Russians certainly don't appreciate it.
President Trump ordered Mick Mulvaney to suspend the aid, and you saw Mr. Mulvaney right there say that one of the reasons was indeed this idea that the Ukrainians had to pursue these political investigations.
I'll leave to the Chief of Staff to explain what it is he said and what he intended. I can speak clearly to what America's strategic objectives were in providing this defensive weaponry to the people of Ukraine.
So do you agree then with Senator Murkowski that it would have been inappropriate to withhold the military aid unless this political investigation was pursued?
George, I'm telling you what I was involved with. I'm telling you what I saw transpiring and how President Trump was working to make the evaluation about whether it was appropriate to provide this assistance.
But that's what I'm asking is, would it be appropriate to condition that?
George, I'm not going to get into hypotheticals and secondary things based on what someone else has said. George, you would have never done it when you were the spokesman. I'm not going to do it here.
Except it's not hypothetical. We saw the Chief of Staff, the acting
Chief
of
is,
Staff.
George. You just said if this happened. That is by definition a hypothetical.
The Chief of Staff said it did.
George, you asked me if this happened. It's a hypothetical. I've told you what I observed, what I saw the process related to this very funding. What we did and how we thought about that was aimed at the strategic interests of the United States of America in the right and appropriate way to ensure that there wasn't corruption in Ukraine that would...
It really does look like Secretary Pompeo is more interested in being in Kansas and considering a Senate race in Kansas than he is the national security of the United States. You know, Ambassador Yovanovitch, in her testimony, also talked about the implications of all of this around the world. Who are other leaders supposed to think makes the decisions? Is it the official policy of the United States, or is it some unofficial gang that is running a number set out by the President of the United States? What's this do to the credibility and reliability of ambassadors all over the world who are public servants, not political appointees? Do they come with credibility? Do they come with reliability? So this kind of behavior by Secretary Pompeo not only has undermined these great public servants, but has really put our national security at risk all over the world.